Humanity was busy trashing nature, so a goddess decided to drop a little trial on them. Dungeons started popping up worldwide, and the age of the explorer began. In this new world, status is everything. Kai is already bragging about becoming an official explorer, flashing the level 4 mark on his hand. Meanwhile, Suzuki Hinata is stuck at level 0. Kai just laughs in his face, saying someone with 0 talent surviving is a total joke. It's the same old story from middle school. Everyone treated Suzuki like garbage because the system said he had 0 potential. He tried to stay positive, hoping things would change in high school. But Kai is right there to remind him he's an F-rank loser. Suzuki is used to the mockery, but it doesn't make it any easier. He just wants to find a way to move forward. He enrolled at Seishin High to get a fresh start, but his personal nightmare, Kai, followed him there to make sure everyone knew his business. Up in the sky, a news blimp broadcasts the latest Explorer rankings. It's a reminder of a world Suzuki feels he'll never reach. He worries about the future. In a world full of monsters, no one wants a level 0 dragging down their party. Suddenly, the crowd parts for Kamui Hinata. She's the school's top prospect with S-rank potential, the exact opposite of Suzuki. In class, Suzuki realizes he's sitting right behind the legendary Kamui. He can practically feel the glares from the other students. The introductions begin, and Kamui keeps it short and professional. She's already in a league of her own. Then it's Suzuki's turn. He's a nervous wreck, hoping he doesn't mess up his first impression. He introduces himself, and the classroom goes quiet. Sharing a last name with the S-rank genius is just another way for him to stand out. Later, he arrives at the school dorms. It's a massive building, way more impressive than anything back home. He meets the dorm matron, Seino. She hands him a thick rulebook and tells him to follow it to the letter. There's a mixer for the new dorm students in the cafeteria. Suzuki hopes he can at least make one friend. He tries to join a group, and they seem friendly enough at first. They're already talking about forming parties based on their ranks. When they ask for his rank, he tries to be honest. Telling a room full of aspiring heroes you're an F rank is a real mood killer. The table goes dead silent. They can't even fathom how someone with his stats managed to get into a school like Seishin. Modern society is built on this hierarchy. S rank is the dream, and F rank is the absolute bottom of the barrel. One of the students tries to cheer him up, saying levels matter more than potential. But that only makes things worse. He's heard the hard work pays off speech a million times. It doesn't change the reality that the system has already written him off. Back in his room, Suzuki collapses onto his bed. Normally, everyone starts at level 1, but he's stuck at exactly 0. He looks at a photo of his sister. He didn't come to this school for glory. He did it so he could become an explorer and provide for his family. The frustration boils over. He can't face his sister if he's just going to be a failure who gets looked down on forever. He clenches his phone, deciding he can't wait for things to happen. If the school won't help him level up, he'll find a dungeon and do it himself. He stands before the entrance of an E-rank dungeon. It's supposed to be for beginners, but for him, it's a massive gamble. He remembers Seino's warning to put his life first. He gives her a confident nod, pretending he isn't terrified. At the registration desk, the place looks deserted. Suzuki calls out, wondering if anyone is actually working today. A receptionist pops up, looking totally frazzled. She notices his Seishin High uniform and assumes he's a top-tier student. She starts scrambling to find the license equipment. While she's distracted, Suzuki notices a crystal on the counter. It's meant to measure potential. When Suzuki touches it, the crystal doesn't glow purple for F rank. It turns a pitch black color. The system confirms it. Level 0. It's not just a low rank. It's like his potential is being swallowed by absolute darkness. Suddenly, the ground gives way. Suzuki has no time to react as he's pulled into a sudden, violent void. The receptionist returns with the license box, but the counter is empty. Suzuki Hinata has completely vanished. He's falling through a dark abyss, screaming as reality twists around him. This definitely wasn't part of the registration process. A voice echoes through the void, telling him he's going to hell. He's plunging deeper and deeper into the unknown. He hits the ground and gasps for air. It's pitch black, and he can't see a single thing in the oppressive darkness. A system message flashes before his eyes. He's no longer at a beginner dungeon. He's in a high difficulty zone called Lucifano, Fall. The environment is so harsh, it triggers a reaction. Because he's struggling just to exist, the system grants him a surrounding scan skill. His body begins to burn from the toxic atmosphere. Instead of dying, the sheer agony forces his system to evolve, granting him foreign body resistance. The pain is unreal, but the system is actually rewarding him for it. He just unlocked status ailment resistance through pure misery. The skill is evolving faster than he can process. It goes from medium to nullification in seconds, saving him from the toxic air. His eyes snap open. For a second, he thinks he's back in his dorm room and it was all a bad dream. Fainting in a dungeon is usually a death sentence after all. Reality hits hard. He's still face down in the dirt of the most dangerous dungeon on Earth. He checks his skill list and finds a bunch of new passives. Apparently, the more he suffers, the more broken he becomes. He activates Surrounding Scan and sees a map layout in his mind. The skill confirms the air is literally filled with massive toxin agents. Next up is Night Vision. Now the pitch-black forest looks like broad daylight, and he can even spot a creepy castle in the distance. He eventually stumbles upon a pool of water. Hunger and thirst resistance only go so far. His throat is parched, so he takes a chance and drinks a handful. It tastes like absolute trash. Turns out the water is lethal. His HP regen skill evolves to Lodge just to keep him from dying on the spot. He realizes he just chugged deadly poison water. If he didn't have ailment null, he'd be a corpse right now. He decides to stop treating the dungeon like a playground. He keeps moving, desperately looking for an exit in this rocky terrain. Suddenly, his heart starts racing. He gets a sinking feeling that something massive is watching him. He turns around and comes face to face with a nightmare. It's a massive, dinosaur-like beast. Suzuki can't believe his luck. He barely arrived and he's already found a boss-level monster. He wonders if it's a rare, irregular monster. Either way, he needs to back away slowly and pray it didn't see him. A single snap of a twig is all it takes. The monster's eye locks onto him instantly. The beast lets out a deafening roar that shakes the very ground. Suzuki doesn't stick around to chat. He turns tail and sprints for his life. The panic triggers another evolution. He gains speed boost, and it immediately jumps to medium rank. Even with the buff, the monster is gaining on him. It's tearing through the forest like it's nothing. It's closing the gap way too fast for comfort. The system pushes him further. Speed boost hits large, then extra large as he pushes his body to the limit. It finally hits ultimate. He feels like a blur, but even top speed might not be enough in this terrain. He realizes the dense forest is working against him. No matter how fast he is, there's nowhere to hide. The monster manages to cut him off, towering over him with a hungry look in its eyes. He's completely out of breath. He needs a plan, and he needs it 5 seconds ago. The beast prepares for the kill. Suzuki realizes he can't just roll over and die here, not when he has people waiting for him. He starts thinking crazy. If he fights this thing, maybe his hardship mechanic will turn him into a god. The monster lunges, and Suzuki throws himself out of the way. A massive claw strike shatters the ground right where he was standing. He's on the move again, but his legs are starting to give out. He's at his limit. Stamina is gone, and the monster is preparing for another strike. Just in time, he acquires Endurance Boost. It's a literal lifesaver that keeps him from collapsing. He notices something weird. The monster stopped mid-chase, looking hesitant. He looks down and realizes he's standing near a poisonous swamp. He scoops up a bit of the toxic sludge, watching the monster's reaction. The beast looks genuinely nervous. Even an irregular monster has its limits. With a desperate shout, Suzuki hurls the poison water directly at the creature. He's got it figured out now. The monster is terrified of the swamp, and he's about to use that to his advantage. Suzuki Hinata hurls the poison water with everything he's got. The monster screeches as the toxic liquid sizzles against its skin. The reaction is instantaneous. The irregular monster thrashes in agony as the very thing it feared most begins to eat away at its massive frame. It's over. The beast collapses, its body dissolving into the ground. Suzuki stands there panting, reminding himself of the golden rule. Never lower your guard until the target is definitely dead. He wonders if he can salvage anything from the remains. It would be a waste to leave a boss-level kill behind without checking for loot. The system must be reading his mind. He's hit with a flash of inspiration and suddenly gains the Monster Disassembly active skill. He checks his updated status window. His passive skill list is getting ridiculously long. Everything from poison immunity to extreme speed boosts. He activates the new skill, and the monster's remains are instantly processed into neat piles of materials. He's hit the jackpot. He's looking at stacks of bones, high-quality hide, and a magic stone so large it makes E-rank drops look like pebbles. Now he has a new problem. He's one guy in a tattered uniform with no way to carry a mountain of monster parts out of here. He jokingly wishes for a magic backpack, and the universe decides to provide once again. He officially unlocks dimensional storage. He opens up his inventory interface. It's clean, organized, and shows exactly how much of each material he's managed to hoard. He tests it out by pulling a massive bone back out of thin air. It's incredibly convenient, though he's disappointed to find out it won't let him store liquid poison. He takes a moment to look back at the quiet forest. It's hard to process that he actually took down a creature that probably should have ended his journey right then and there. The thrill of the win is short-lived, as he realizes the harsh reality of his situation. Even with his new powers, he's still trapped. He clenches his fist in frustration. He just took down a nightmare-tier beast, but his stats haven't budged an inch. It doesn't matter how many powerful enemies he defeats. If you multiply any amount of experience by 0, the result is always going to be 0. He's still level 0. Further into the dungeon, he encounters a pack of rabbit monsters. They look cute, but in a place like this, cute usually means lethally fast. He tries to play it smart and sneak past them. One wrong step is all it takes to ruin a perfect stealth run. He steps on a hidden branch that triggers a trap. The system awards him trap detection and trap immunity for his clumsiness, because why not? The rabbits don't waste a second. They launch a coordinated aerial assault, but Suzuki is ready for them. He ducks under the first strike with ease. After dealing with that dinosaur-sized nightmare, these little guys feel like they're moving in slow motion. Suzuki faces off against a rabbit monster. Thanks to his ultimate speed boost, the creature's lightning-fast strikes look like they're happening in slow motion. He doesn't just dodge. He realizes he's fast enough to completely outclass it. He goes on the offensive, landing a flurry of strikes on the monster. The system chimes in. He's just unlocked the unarmed enhancement skill through sheer combat experience. This is exactly what he needed. If his level is stuck at 0, he has to farm as many skills as humanly possible to survive. The skill quickly evolves into martial arts, turning his raw punches into a disciplined fighting style. The rewards keep coming. He gains resistance to fear and intimidation, plus emergency evasion, which makes his body react to danger automatically. He knows he can't afford to be weak. If he struggles here, he'll only be a burden to anyone else in a high-rank dungeon. Determined to prove that hard work can overcome a broken system, He continues his monster hunting spree. After hours of grinding, the landscape finally begins to change. He checks his loot, a decent pile of magic stones and monster parts. Now the only goal is to get this haul back to civilization in one piece. Just as his hope was starting to fade, he spots a familiar glow in the distance. It's the dungeon exit. He steps out into the fresh air, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. He actually made it out alive. He makes his way to the local guild office, where we meet the guild's receptionist, a professional-looking woman with long blonde hair and blue eyes. He enters so quietly that he accidentally sneaks up on her, sending the poor girl into a total panic. "Hey, make some noise!" she screams, slamming her hands on the counter. Once she calms down, she realizes he's the same student who went missing yesterday. Suzuki's heart sinks. He was unconscious in that hellhole for an entire day? It felt like a lifetime. The receptionist tells him to get his official license issued. It's the only way to prove he's a registered explorer. She brings out a testing device and instructs him to place his hand inside the box to measure his stats. The moment he touches it, a thick, ominous black mist begins to leak from the device, terrifying the receptionist. The results are in, and they're as depressing as ever. The receptionist screams in disbelief at the readout. He's still a complete and utter level 0. Suzuki doesn't let the level 0 status get him down. He's just relieved that he can finally handle E-rank dungeons and sell small stones for some extra pocket money. His main goal is simple: support his family and treat his little sister to something nice. The receptionist offers her congratulations as she officially registers him as an explorer. He beams with gratitude, thanking her for the opportunity. For the first time, he has a path forward. Above the city, a massive broadcast reveals shocking news. A mysterious new explorer has seized first place in the world rankings with a score that defies logic. Since their identity is hidden, the system lists them only as 3 question marks. While the elite, like Kamui Hinata, and bullies like Kai, are left stunned by this sudden shift in power, the narrator notes that this moment will change the world forever. But at this very moment, the identity of the world's strongest remains a total mystery, even to Suzuki himself. Suzuki heads to the buyback center to cash in his dungeon loot. The terminal screen flashes a warning. X rank, magic stone, appraisal impossible. Suzuki stares at it, completely floored. The machine tells him it can't handle rare items and he should go to a specialist center. He's already doubting his luck. He tries a bunch of other stuff: fur, hides, bones, and they all come back appraisal impossible. He's starting to think the machine is just broken. He tosses in one of the small stones he got from a rabbit monster, and the screen hits him with a massive payout. 300,000 yen. Suzuki's jaw drops at the 6-figure price tag for just one stone. He finishes the transaction, decides to hold on to the rest to avoid making a scene, and walks out feeling totally drained. Back at his residence, Miss Seino stops her cleaning as he walks through the gate. He gives her a quick apology for being gone all day, claiming he just got caught up in a dungeon. She tells him to be careful and not to push himself too hard. He looks down and realizes just how much grime he's covered in. Before he can head inside to scrub off, Ms. Seino speaks up again. She gives him a warm smile and congratulates him on finally becoming an official explorer. Suzuki's face lights up with a grin. He stands outside for a second, letting it sink in. He actually made it. Later, in the laundry room, a girl notices his trashed gear and asks if he just got back from a dungeon run. Introducing herself as Hiroto Fuji, the classmate greets him with an energetic grin. Suzuki returns the greeting, still a bit caught off guard by how friendly she is. Hiroto asks which dungeon he hit, and when he mentions E117, she's impressed he survived a solo run. She starts panicking, telling him that even E ranks are dangerous alone and he really needs a party. Hiroto offers to team up with him next time, and Suzuki thinks about how nice it is to actually meet someone who isn't looking down on him. The school bell rings, ending another long day of classes. Kai towers over Suzuki's desk and orders him to come outside. Suzuki just sighs and follows him. They end up on the rooftop as the sun starts to dip below the horizon. Usually, Kai being this close would have Suzuki shaking, but with his new resistance skills, he doesn't feel a thing. He's starting to realize his hard work might finally be paying off. Kai winds up and throws a massive punch, shouting about how Suzuki doesn't stand a chance. Suzuki leans back, watching the fist crawl toward him in slow motion. He can't believe how slow the bully actually is. He realizes that even the rabbit monsters in the dungeon were faster and stronger than this guy. Kai is losing his mind because his level 0 target just dodged him. The blonde student charges back in with a desperate swing, but Suzuki is already prepared to shut it down. Suddenly, a wave of freezing air blasts through the rooftop, stopping the fight in its tracks. A system notification pings. Cold resistance acquired. The school's ice queen, Kamui Hinata, walks into view and tells them to stop. Kai immediately backs off, throwing out one last weak threat before scurrying away. Suzuki turns to thank the girl who just saved him. Kamui just stares at him with an icy expression. Suzuki starts sweating, remembering his sister's warning about how complicated girls can be. All of a sudden, a massive whirlwind of frost erupts from Kamui, nearly knocking Suzuki off his feet. His freeze resistance kicks in as the ground turns to solid ice. He ducks down, wondering if the S-rank explorer is actually trying to kill him. The cold is so intense, he's certain he'd be a popsicle if he didn't have his new skill. He looks up, trying to figure out why she's doing this. He decides he's got to move before he actually dies, assuming she's just attacking for the hell of it. Suzuki braces himself to fight back, but then he sees something that stops him dead. Kamui isn't attacking. She's crying. She looks absolutely terrified, whispering an apology through her tears. She gasps out that she was so scared she couldn't hold it back. It turns out her ice god's blessing is a literal curse that activates on its own whenever she feels threatened. She explains that she has almost no control over it. If she loses focus even for a second, the cold leaks out and hurts people. Suzuki watches as she breaks down, realizing she's just as scared of her own power as everyone else is. He's baffled. Why was she scared of him? Then it hits him. She probably saw him standing up to Kai and got intimidated. Kamui keeps sobbing, swearing that she didn't try to attack him on purpose. Suzuki realizes he had it all wrong. She wasn't some cold-hearted queen. She was just a terrified girl who still tried to help. He steps forward. He pulls out a handkerchief and gently wipes away her tears, leaving the powerful S-rank explorer completely stunned by the touch. Suzuki apologizes, taking the full blame for the rooftop incident. Kamui offers to help him anytime as thanks for saving her, leaving Suzuki completely flustered. He promises to do whatever he can for her, while Kamui watches him, her heart clearly affected by his genuine kindness. She looks at him with wide, vulnerable eyes and asks if he's really being serious. Suzuki nods so hard his head is practically a blur, making Kamui blush even deeper. As a result of the freezing encounter, Suzuki's system updates with cold resistance and freeze resistance, alongside his growing list of passive and active skills. He's genuinely shocked when Kamui accepts his help, wondering if he really did the right thing. He recalls his sister's advice about making girls feel better and resolves to help Kamui however he can, as she softly thanks him. The two walk home together in the quiet evening light. Suzuki mulls over the burden of Kamui's S-rank power, realizing that her stoic expression might just be her way of keeping her dangerous magic in check. After they part ways, Kamui watches him go with a subtle, rare smile on her face. Back at the dorm, Suzuki is still agonizing over social cues, realizing he has no idea how to talk to anyone who isn't his little sister. His lunch is interrupted by the energetic Hiroto Fujii, who slides into the seat next to him with an enthusiastic greeting. Suzuki can only stare in horror at the mountain of food Hiroto is prepared to demolish, wondering where they even put all those calories. Hiroto just happily chews away, completely oblivious to his shock. Suzuki thinks about how Hiroto has the vibe of a small animal you just want to protect, which immediately earns him a glare and a lecture about being rude. He admits to Hiroto that he's completely clueless when it comes to understanding how girls think. He explains his sister's rule about walking girls home, but Hiroto counters that it only works if the girl actually wants him there. A realization that hits Suzuki like a truck. He starts spiraling, terrified that he made a huge fool of himself by imposing on someone as high-ranking as Kamui. Hiroto gives him some simple advice. Just ask first next time. Suzuki can only sigh, realizing just how complicated social life is compared to a dungeon. The next day, Suzuki and Kamui meet in a private training room to begin their session. Kamui unleashes a massive burst of ice energy, the sheer force of it nearly knocking Suzuki back as the room begins to freeze. He watches the ice spread and wonders if he's actually going to end up as a popsicle today. Kamui is clearly struggling to contain the surge, her expression a mix of fear and determination as she declares her wish to overcome this curse. She shouts that she wants to master the ice god's blessing once and for all. To Suzuki's absolute shock, she begs him to keep glaring at her, hoping the pressure will help her maintain control. It clicks for Suzuki. Because Kai's hateful gaze always made her lose control, she needs to learn to handle that pressure in a safe environment. He steels himself and stares back with everything he's got, determined to help her overcome her trauma. He realizes he might be staring a bit too intensely when Kamui gets flustered, forcing him to quickly apologize. He tries again, but Kamui's power is already reacting, her body trembling under the strain of the freezing aura. The room is quickly entombed in thick, jagged ice as Kamui's power goes wild under the simulated pressure. Kamui collapses as the cold becomes overwhelming, and Suzuki rushes to her side, terrified she's hurt. When she asks if he's gotten stronger, Suzuki just shrugs it off, explaining that his level never changes, so he's just the same old him. Kamui looks up at him with tearful eyes, genuinely touched that someone would be this kind to her for no reason. Suzuki gets embarrassed and claims he's just following his sister's orders to take responsibility for making a girl cry. Seeing her finally relax and smile, Suzuki realizes that without the fear of the cold, she's much more expressive than he thought. He feels a pang of envy watching her face her trauma head-on, finding her determination truly amazing. He wonders how to deal with the frozen room, and his system immediately rewards his hardship with the ice melt skill. He mentions the new power to Kamui, but she warns him that divine ice like hers won't melt that easily. Suzuki looks at the ice and resolves to find a way to fix it, wanting to make sure Kamui never has to deal with this isolation again. The intense situation triggers another evolution, and his skill transforms into the much more powerful Absolute Ice Dissolve. He reaches out and activates the new ability, watching in awe as the massive ice formations vanish instantly. Suzuki tells Kamui that everything is back to normal and they can finally head home. As they walk, passers-by can't believe their eyes, whispering about the legendary Ice Princess being in a party with a guy like Suzuki. Suzuki calls out to Kamui just as they're about to part ways, looking a bit flustered. He awkwardly asks if she'd like him to walk her home, trying to hide his nervousness while she looks at him with a mix of surprise and worry. With a sincere smile, Suzuki tells her that he just wants to be there for her until she's safe. Kamui's heart skips a beat as she watches him, finally agreeing to let him accompany her home. He activates his skill once more, shielding her from the residual cold with absolute ease. Kamui whispers a shy thank you, her face turning bright red as Suzuki awkwardly accepts the gratitude. The two walk side by side down the quiet street, the atmosphere between them shifting into something much warmer. Suzuki's skill list updates, officially adding Absolute Ice Dissolve to his arsenal of powerful active and passive abilities. A profile for Suzuki appears, noting his rank F and level 0 status, along with some fun facts about his secret talent for crane games and impressions. A few days later at the training grounds, Kamui is once again reduced to tears by the intensity of their sessions, leaving Suzuki in a panic. Feeling like a total jerk for making her cry every day, Suzuki decides to walk her home once more to make amends. They arrive at the massive Kamui residence, where Suzuki is suddenly introduced to Kamui's mother, Irina. Suzuki introduces himself with a nervous shout, terrified of what the mother of an S-rank explorer might think of him. He starts imagining the worst possible scenarios, fearing he's about to be punished for making Kamui cry every day. The servant leads him into a traditional room and tells him to relax, but Suzuki is far too tense to even sit comfortably. He suddenly notices a stern-looking old man watching him from the shadows, and his system alerts him that he's gained the stealth detection skill. The old man is impressed that the boy noticed him, but then he starts staring intensely, making Suzuki feel like he's being scanned. The man laughs heartily, telling Kamui she's got a good eye for people, while Suzuki gains mind-reading resistance from the high-pressure encounter. Kamui enters the room wearing a beautiful traditional kimono, leaving Suzuki completely breathless at the sight. He can only manage a stunned shout about how amazing she looks, his heart racing as she smiles brightly at the compliment. The two sit side by side in awkward silence, the only sound being the rhythmic clacking of a bamboo water feature outside. Suzuki is so overwhelmed by her proximity and scent that his system grants him waste dissolution just to deal with his extreme nervous reaction. Irina returns to the room and thanks Suzuki for his patience, signaling the start of their serious talk. She opens a case and reveals an exclusive corporation credit card, shocking Suzuki to his core. She tells him he can use it as much as he likes, but Suzuki immediately starts sweating, realizing this is way more than he ever expected. Kamui is furious at the offer, shouting that this wasn't what they agreed on, while Suzuki is just plain confused. Irina sighs and wipes away a tear, lamenting how long it's been since she and her daughter could even argue like this. The two of them exchange a look of pure shock as they realize just how emotional the situation has become. Suzuki asks if Kamui has been struggling with her powers at home too, and the daughter quietly confirms the painful truth. He realizes that the reason she pushes herself to tears every day is just so she can finally talk to her mother without fear. Irina and the servant bow low, begging Suzuki to continue helping Kamui regain her normal life. Irina explains that with his skill, he's the only one who can buy the time Kamui needs to just be herself. Suzuki looks down at the case and quietly says that he simply cannot accept the offer. He shouts that he doesn't want his relationship with Kamui to be based on money. He just wants to support her for who she is, leaving everyone in the room stunned. Suzuki Hinata isn't doing this for a payout. He looks her in the eye and tells her he wants to help because he chose to, not because he's being paid. Kamui Hinata is left completely stunned, her face heating up instantly. Her mother is just as caught off guard. She didn't expect that kind of backbone from a level 0 student, and asks if this means he plans on staying close to her daughter from here on out. Suzuki realizes how forward that sounded and lets out a nervous, awkward laugh. He's down for it if she is, though. Kamui is a total mess now, hiding her face while her mom notes that this is a pretty big deal for the Kamui family. It's safe to say she's never had a boy be this direct with her before. Suddenly, the mood shifts. Suzuki is seen running through the halls, shouting for Kamui as something clearly went wrong. The peaceful atmosphere didn't last long. He feels a massive drop in temperature. If he doesn't act now, the whole place is going to turn into a giant ice cube. Just in time, the system rewards his stress with a new skill, Absolute Ice Seal. He considers letting her run off, but he knows he can't leave her alone like this. He has to find a way to stabilize her powers before they get out of hand. He tracks her to a training room where she's frantically swinging a sword. His Stealth skill pops up and immediately upgrades to Absolute Concealment, letting him watch her without being seen. Kamui finally hits her breaking point and collapses to the floor. Suzuki immediately drops his stealth and rushes to her side, looking genuinely worried. She's shocked to see him standing right there. He just admits he couldn't stop worrying about her, even if he was supposed to keep his distance. She breaks down in tears, asking why he's being so kind to someone like her. Between her curse and the freezing aura, she's basically been isolated from everyone for years. Suzuki isn't having any of it. He hands her a handkerchief and tells her that watching her work so hard every day was actually inspiring to him. It wasn't just a sense of responsibility, he truly admires her. He gives her a sincere smile, telling her that he genuinely wants to stay by her side. Kamui is left blushing and crying, completely overwhelmed by his kindness. She admits it's been so long since she's been able to touch anyone without hurting them. She reaches out and takes his hand, whispering that she's finally happy. She gives him a rare, beautiful smile and thanks him for breaking through her walls. For the first time in a long time, the ice around her heart is starting to melt. The two of them sit there for a moment in the quiet, finally finding a connection she thought was impossible. It's a peaceful breath after all the chaos. Then, of course, the grandfather shows up to ruin the moment. He's been watching the whole thing, chuckling to himself about their passion. Suzuki nearly jumps out of his skin. The old man is impressed, though. He wants to know how a kid like him is managing to nullify the lethal cold air coming off his granddaughter. To test the boy, the old man releases a crushing aura that would drop most explorers. Suzuki stays on his feet, enduring the pressure without folding. It's clear he's not your average level 0. The grandpa admits he can't just explain his skills for free. Suzuki is left sweating, wondering what kind of crazy trial he's just walked into. This family is intense. But then Kamui blurts out something about marrying him and immediately hits the panic button. She runs off, leaving Suzuki standing there in shock. Suzuki is just confused, but the stress managed to net him a defense boost skill. Kamui tells him to forget everything she just said as they finally head back inside. That's where he meets the head of the family, Kamui Akira. He looks like he could crush a dungeon with his bare hands. Suzuki tries to be polite, but the man's presence is overwhelming. Akira is actually speechless. He's heard the rumors, but seeing his daughter this happy and bringing a boy home is a total miracle for him. He can hardly believe his eyes. He gives Suzuki a deep bow of gratitude, acknowledging the help he gave his daughter. Suzuki, humble as ever, just awkwardly brushes it off. The whole vibe in the mansion has shifted. Seeing Kamui smile again is something the family had given up on years ago. It's like a weight has been lifted from the entire house. As Suzuki is about to head home, Kamui stops him. Blushing harder than she ever has, she asks if he could start calling her by her first name, Hinata, instead of her family name. Suzuki's heart skips a beat. She immediately backtracks, though, saying she just needs a little time to get used to the idea herself. It's a huge step for her. He just smiles and agrees. She tells him to get home safe and reminds him to watch out for the cold night air as he heads out. Her mother watches him walk away from the doorway, looking satisfied with how things turned out. She's happy her daughter finally found someone she can trust. She mentions to Kamui that Suzuki is a good boy. Kamui just nods, knowing he's the first person to truly see her for who she is. It's been a long day, but a good one. Mom promises that the whole Kamui family will have her back. It's been far too long since they've seen her smile like that, and they're not going to let it go. Later that night, things are moving behind the scenes in the mansion. The sound of high-tech machinery echoes through the halls as preparations are made. Kamui stands alone by a door, looking more serious as she stares into the darkness. She knows that things are about to get a lot more complicated. Meanwhile, Suzuki's stat sheet is looking insane. He's already racking up absolute tier abilities, from sealing ice to total concealment. His level 0 status is becoming more of a joke every day. We get a final look at Kamui's profile. Despite her S-rank power player status, She's secretly a fan of period dramas and dreams of being a stage actor. She's got more depth than people think.